Hey everyone, I'm Catherine and welcome to my channel. Today I have a very brief update for you with respect to the Alec Baldwin matter. So the shooting that happened on the set of Rust in 2021. So if you haven't seen my previous video on this, go and watch that. Basically, I give you the details of what Alec Baldwin said happened on the day of the shooting. Now, you'll recall during his interview, his media interview, he says that he feels no remorse, and that if he felt any type of remorse or any type of responsibility for the death of Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer who he shot while shooting the film of Rust, that he might have to end his own life. Those were his words. Now, you'll also remember that soon after the horrific incident happened, there's footage of Alec hugging Helena's husband. And what I think initially happened is many people that aren't experienced with guns or gun training or film, like what is expected on the set of a film, particularly a Western, initially the overwhelming majority of people seem to kind of have a sympathy for Alec. You know, he's an actor doing his job, and someone hands him, so if you're not familiar with the facts of the case, the assistant director handed him a gun and declared cold gun. So Alec then used the gun. He says he was directed to point it here, to do this with the gun by the cinematographer. Alec's evidence in the media was that he pulled the hammer back but didn't pull the trigger. Now, there's apparently some expert evidence that come forward that says he definitely had his hand on the trigger and pulled the trigger, but that's to be determined as part of the next court case. But Alec's evidence is that he pulled the hammer back and that the gun went off, but it wasn't his fault. So that's what he has always maintained, is it's not his fault. He was doing what he was told to do. He was handed a gun, declared by the assistant director, David Halls, that it was a cold gun, and so he acted appropriately. That's what he says. Now, what seems to have happened is, as the case has gone on and people have taken a deep dive into gun safety protocols and, well, what is expected on set, a few celebrities have come out and spoken out on what is expected. So George Clooney gave very verbal opinion, very strong opinion that it's Alec's fault, and that if you're going to point a gun at someone on a movie set, you check that it's filled with dummy rounds. You would never take someone else's word for it. And he went so far as to say that, you know, you would actually show the person you're pointing the gun at that they're dummy rounds before pointing a gun at someone. So people have been very vocal since it's happened, saying that they think Alec is the main one to blame. Of course, the armorer on set should have known that the rounds she was loading into the gun weren't dummies, and there's quite easy way of checking. You can shake it, and you can also see the hole at the end of a dummy round, and the active rounds didn't have the hole, and they don't make a sound when you shake it. So there's clear negligence on the part of the armorer, David Halls, and Alec. Now, people were wondering, was Alec going to be criminally charged or charged with a civil lawsuit with respect to wrongful death? Now, this week, yes, Helena's estate, so the deceased cinematographer's estate, her husband and her child, have initiated civil proceedings against Alec as a defendant. There's various other defendants named in the wrongful death claim, including various members of staff, of course, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the armorer, and of course, David Halls, the assistant director who declared the gun to be cold before handing it to Alec. So the plaintiff in the matter, so the people bringing the claim, have initiated proceedings and engaged one of the top plaintiff solicitors in that area. So it's going to be a big fight. Now, what they've done initially is they've actually recreated what's happened, and I'm going to actually insert a video of that the plaintiff's lawyer has actually created, and this is basically a reenactment of what they've used Alec's statement and other people's statements, evidence to date, to reenact and create this reenactment of what actually happened on the day. I'm going to insert that at the end of this video. Let me know what you think. Now, whether or not this will be allowed into evidence depend on whether the video has more probative value or whether it's more prejudicial, which means, number one, it has to be relevant. I think they'll be able to, they get over that hurdle. But the next is, would it cause such a prejudicial response in the people watching, so the jurors watching, or is it more probative? So that's the balancing act with respect to whether this video will be allowed into evidence. So let me know what you think about this video and whether it should be let in as evidence or not in the comment section below. I'm not going to go through word for word with respect to the wrongful death claim brought against Alec and the various other defendants, but I'll make a few comments. For example, you don't usually list gun safety rules or regulations like this in a complaint, but they have done that. And I think the reason the lawyers have done that in this complaint is because They know that a lot of the public are going to be reading this complaint. They're not going to know the basic laws, gun safety laws. And they've done that basically for the public's benefit. It's not usually something you would put in the legal document. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go through the 10 gun safety rules. I think that speaks for themselves. I think that it's going to be quite easy for them to make this claim out against ALEC and various other people, the armourer, David Halls, and various other people. It's quite, to me, it seems like a pretty obvious case of negligence. Now, with respect to the criminal case, I don't know, I think it's either 1 or 3 years that the police have to bring criminal proceedings against them from the date of the shooting. So there's still time for criminal proceedings to be brought. So what will probably happen is the police will sit back, they'll watch, they'll hear the evidence of the weapons experts and what the other people on set say happened, the various safety failures that had happened, which were brought to production's attention before the fateful shooting. So all of this will come out, and then that might lead the police to lay some criminal charges. So watch this space. They still have time to lay criminal charges. So let's go through the gun safety law. All right, number 1, always keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. I mean, he says, Alec's defense is, well, I was an actor in a movie and I was being told where to point the gun. But that's still breaching standard gun safety. Just because more than one person breached a safety standard doesn't mean that it's right. Everyone should have pulled him up on it, and he shouldn't have done it. He's the actor. He's done so many films before. He should have said, oh, sorry, Helena, well, I'm not going to point this at you. You know, number 1 gun safety rule is don't point the gun at someone. You always point it in a safe direction. Pointing it at, you know, right at the camera where those people are, that's just obviously blatantly not a safe direction. Number 2, firearms should be unloaded when not actually in use. I mean, that one, this one should never have been loaded with active rounds. It should only have been dummy rounds. And, you know, they weren't even going to use this particular scene in a movie. So why did they need to have a bullet in there anyway? They didn't even need dummy rounds in this one. Number 3, don't rely on your gun's safety. Treat every gun as though it can fire at any time. Obviously, he didn't treat the gun like it could fire at any time. He did the complete opposite. And this, as I said, this is a basic gun safety protocol that they teach you. You know, you're going to use a gun for the very first time. This is what they teach you. Pretend like it's loaded. Be careful where you point it. These are basic things that you'd be thinking about that apply to a movie set as well as just general life. 4, be sure of your target and what's beyond it. His target, he pointed it in the direction of the cinematographer and the director behind, because of course he shot her and then it went through and shot the other fellow Suze's shoulder. So again, another breach of the basic safety procedure for guns. 5, use correct ammunition. Okay, there shouldn't have been live ammo on set, which Alec keeps coming back to. Who brought the ammo? They're at fault. Well, no, Alec, you breached several of these basic gun safety protocols. So use correct ammunition. There didn't need to be ammunition in this gun. Or, you know, the armorer, come on, armorer, you should know the difference between a dummy round and an active round. The basic, I've just been looking at, you know, YouTube videos and things online, and now I know the difference between you shake it, you know, if it makes the sound, if it doesn't make the sound, it's an active round, one has a hole at the end, one doesn't. That to me is like a gross negligent failure by the armorer. Not to be, imagine being an armorer and you can't tell the difference between an active round and a dummy round on a movie set. That is mind-boggling to me. Anyway, she's a defendant too. So use correct ammunition, again, another breach. 6, if your gun fails to fire when the trigger is pulled, handle it with care. I mean, he says he didn't pull the trigger, but again, the experts are saying that that's not correct. Always wear eye and ear protection when shooting. Well, his response to that would be, I'm an actor in a movie, oh, I'm not going to wear that. The whole purpose is for me to use dummy rounds and they shouldn't be active rounds. So obviously that one's not entirely applicable when it's an actor in a movie and there's supposed to be dummy rounds in the gun. 8, be sure the barrel is clear of obstructions before shooting. I mean, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed in her evidence talks about how she was struggling to put certain rounds into the gun and she felt like she needed to clean the gun. Just another lapse and issues with safety. Don't alter or modify your gun and have guns serviced regularly. Learn the mechanical and handling characteristics of the firearm you are using. Again, Alex tries to, when he talks in his media interview, about how he didn't know how the gun would work. You know, he kind of tries to play dumb, like he's not a gun expert, etc., etc. Well, you need to make yourself a gun expert. George Clooney and the other guy, there was another famous actor that came out and spoke very heavily about how they are of the view that Alec should have known better. He's a superstar. He's held to a higher regard. And part of being a superstar and handling guns on a Western, if you're going to be the big top dog actor, is you need to familiarize yourself with the weapons you're going to be using. So that again is another breach of a basic gun safety protocol. All right, so let's take a look at the CGI footage. So David Halls declares it cold gun. So Alec doesn't check it, doesn't look in the barrel, doesn't do anything like he's supposed to. Assure himself that it is a cold gun before pointing it in the direction of a human being. He simply takes the assistant director's word for it being a cold gun. And Alex says in his interview that he didn't know for around 40 minutes that she had been shot. How can you not know that she'd been shot? Look at that. There's a live round versus a typical dummy round. So you can see at the end, how did the armourer not know the difference? One has a hole, one doesn't. So this is showing you where it entered her body. Went straight through, comes out the other side and straight into Suze's shoulder. So what did you think of the CGI footage? Do you think it should be allowed into evidence? Are you one of those people that initially thought, oh, I feel so bad for Alec, but then after kind of doing some more research, looking into the gun safety protocols, listening to comparable celebrities on what is expected on set and what didn't happen on this set, and after hearing all of this, now you're thinking, no, Alec really is and should be the primary defendant. So many failures happen on set, but had he checked himself and assured himself and followed the basic gun safety protocols, the death could have been avoided. Now this 9-year-old boy and his husband don't have a mother or a wife, just due to negligence, cost cutting, and not taking the time or following basic gun safety protocols. Let me have your comments in the comment section below. I'm going to continue to follow this case. I've got a playlist set up for this specific case. If you like this video, don't forget to actually like the video. And if you like this content, please subscribe to my channel and I'll see you in the next one.